Hello, everyone. Welcome back to When Shooting's Life podcast, episode 10. I am your host, Kue Lee, with my co-host, Khang. Today, we have a very special guest, and he's a former police officer and currently a firearms instructor, and he goes by the name of Pheng Xiong. How's it going, guys?
Good, how are you?
Doing good. All right, so before we officially begin this podcast, we like to ask our guest five random questions. So you don't have to go into details. You could just give out a short answer.
Peng, have you watched any of our episodes before?
I haven't. I actually the first time I looked at it was when I first got you guys first asked me, and I was like, oh, let me take a look. So I real brief.
Okay, well, you're in for a treat.
All
I'm
right.
looking forward to it.
All right. So here's a five random question. Are you ready?
Yep.
Is it really considered a Mong J4 if there's no fight?
I would say from old guys like me, no, it's not.
I agree 100%, man. I always I think that they need to have a ring where, like all the gang members or anyone to fight and then and then we will pay them like $50 just to fight.
I
You know what I mean?
I think it would generate a lot more people to want to come if it was like an open ring, right? You come up and you sign up
Yes,
and you go
I
against
agree.
your rival in there. I think it'd be awesome.
I agree 100%.
Yep.
Oh,
All
I
right.
can see so many disastrous scenarios happening with that. So many people are going to get shot in a parking lot.
Right. Right.
That's the point, right?
Don't give them any ideas. Don't.
All right, so next question is, as a Hmong person, is it more polite to show up early or show up late at a family event?
At a family event, I
Yeah.
would say be fashionably late. That's just traditions, right?
Yes,
But if you show up late, you got to make sure you got to have what is it? Pop or beer or food,
Hmm.
right? And then it's all good. So that's traditions.
I agree with that, man, because if you show up too early, they're gonna say that, yeah, man, who dollar, you know what I mean?
Yep. 你这是动作是
You
Hmm.
know? All right, next one. Which one is more scarier, Manai or Shaw?
Ooh, for me, it's gotta be sure.
When all them Kool-Aid in her mouth?
Yeah, that's yeah. I can still picture that because I was traumatized as a kid.
You know what's crazy, man? I try to show my kids like these old school scary Hmong movie, and they just laugh and they say it's so cringy. And I'm like, it is true, man. I can't believe we were so scared of those shit back then.
That was the best that we had.
It was, but then you get the Mongda movies too, right? And we're
Mhm.
thinking like, man, those are awesome. We'll get now we're like, wow, that's so cringy.
Yeah. All right, next one. Would you rather drink all night with your boys but only share one cup, or sit at the table and eat with the OG while everyone is double dipping the food?
Man, I'm gonna have to say that I'm not a big drinker, so I'm gonna just say the second part.
Damn,
Double
bro.
dipping.
But man, but you could see all them rice pebble in the Joho and everything though, man.
Right, right. But I guess I would rather do that than drink alcohol and be all messed up and just pass out. So
You see, what the thing about the alcohol, even if you share a cup, the alcohol kind of kills the bacteria, but not herpes though.
it's got to be some really strong alcohol, like 100 proof or something. Maybe it'll work.
All right, last one. Would you rather honchate from the love of your life or tojo by a sexy as ghost every night when you sleep?
Oh man, it's got to be the second one. There's no way that Don Chaho whatever. That's too crazy for me, man. That's just crazy. I can't even fathom the idea of that because it's just like the story's just scary.
But you know how scary it is when you have sleep paralysis, man. You can't fucking
Oh
move,
yeah,
man.
yep.
But
I've had yeah.
but I
We
think
we've
if
all
the
we've all had it.
yeah, but I think if the ghost is, if she's pretty sexy, I think I wouldn't mind that. I'm just kidding. I'm just kidding.
I
Don't.
never see the sexy ghost. I always see the horrifying black shadow demons.
Right?
Damn, you're missing out then.
Well,
I'm just
how
kidding.
many sexy ghosts have you seen? I have seen zero.
Well, I seen one. I'm just kidding. I'm just kidding. All right. All right, that's it for the five random questions. So for the viewers, Payne, can you give a little background about yourself?
Yeah. So my name is Pheng Xiong, and I have about 15 years of law enforcement experience. Um, I've been a firearms instructor since the beginning of my career. Use of force instructor. Uh, I was a canine trainer. I Yeah. I mean, I guess realistically, that's what the nuts and bolts of it is.
Which department were you with?
City of St. Paul.
Nice,
Yeah.
nice.
I don't
How
think that's
many?
nice, man.
Well, I was gonna say how many J4 fights did you break up? Lots, huh?
Ooh, honestly, there were quite a few, but
Hmm.
I would say at least the years that was really crazy, I would say
Hmm.
probably like as to include the minor ones, probably
Hmm.
one per event. Yeah. So, but the funny story, the four funny stories now though. So the company that I started, we work for J4, the organizers now, and we haven't had a true fight in over 2 years since we've been there. So, yeah, the joke earlier, the joke now, we're like, yeah, it's not really J4 without a fight, but I think it's just because times have changed for a lot of our young,
Hmm.
young adults. So,
All right.
Yeah.
I agree. All right, so let's jump into the question. So the first question that we have for you is well, first, what inspired you to join the force in the first place?
yeah, so it was like growing up in a rough neighborhood, right? I mean, you want to talk about shootings, raw homicides, you want to talk about gang fights, you want to talk about all those things. I grew up in Frogtown, so all my cousins that lived around me, they're either in a gang or they were in a rival gang, and it was always constant battles, always fighting. At that time, during my time when I was growing up, it didn't quite escalate to shootings yet because the kids didn't really carry guns on them. So that all the violence, and then being involved in some of those things myself, where I necessarily wasn't in the gang, but because I grew up in the neighborhood, I got jumped, I got all those things, along with you have to pick a side. Either you pick one gang or the other, and I ended up not picking a gang. I ended up just trying to be as smart as I could, not go out and wear colors, go to school, and I knew that I was going to become a cop. So I just got my schooling done and became a cop because I wanted to honestly help out those people that, like my family members who were involved in those gangs, really help them out of the life, get them out of that. That's the honest truth. And yeah, that there's stories, more stories for that. So
When was it? Was it the 90s or early 2000?
90s, mid
90s?
90s. Yep.
All right. Well, first of all, how old are you, man?
I'm 39, pushing 40 here next year, so I'm getting close.
All right.
Nice. Well, I actually just kind of building off of that. What inspired you to be a cop? Because you said that from a young age, you knew you wanted to get into law enforcement.
Yeah. So, it's crazy. What's crazy is, my parents didn't speak English really well, right? So,
Hmm.
they were involved in a car accident, and my dad got sideswiped, and the police showed up, and the person that we sideswiped spoke very clear English. And there's like a
Mm.
van full of us kids, right? And I'm like this. I'm the second oldest, and my sister, she's very like quiet. She doesn't talk up.
Hmm.
She didn't speak up. I was quiet too because I didn't speak up because I was only maybe like
Hmm.
7 at the time.
Hmm.
But I remember the cop asking my parents like, "What happened?" And my dad's speaking broken English. He's driving, trying to explain that the car sideswiped him, and the driver of the other car was like, "Oh, no, 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 he cut in front of me and I hit him, right?" And so then
Mm.
that lie stuck in my head, and as a kid, as a 7-year old, I was like, "Man, fuck that," right? That was stuck in my head, and then my dad got a ticket for it, and my dad couldn't fight it. My dad went down there, and they're like, "Well, the cop wrote the ticket, and this is what the other driver said, and your story didn't make sense. So therefore, you either have to pay the ticket or take it to court." If my parents aren't gonna take it to court, they don't want those
Hmm.
problems. So my dad's like, "Whatever, just pay the ticket." So my dad paid the ticket and it was a done deal. But something like that like changed my life and was like, you know what? This pisses me off. It sucks that because English is your second language, they're gonna mistreat you and not get your side of the story. So I'm like, nope, I'm gonna change that. And so that's partially why too. And really realistically, that's what got me into it. And then of course the gang stuff and the crime, and just yeah, yeah. And I'm not gonna lie, the action. So
Yeah, I could definitely see that, man. Yeah, I think all three of us we've been through that point where our parents doesn't speak they speak broken English and they couldn't get much help. But all right, man. So what was your experience like in the police academy?
for me, I enjoyed it very much. I enjoyed it because the training was, I would say at the time, I don't know about now or today, but at the time, the people that were training us were top notch. Um, when it came down to ground fighting, to shooting, to scenarios, to driving, it was top notch. So during the era that I went through, when I got hired, it was like thousands of people applying for like 5 spots
Wow.
and you had to be really good in order to get picked up, or you had to interview really really good. And at that time, I was like cream of the crop, right? I mean, you had to be like a top tier guy in order to get picked. And nowadays, it's not like that. They're hurting. They're trying to scrape everybody from the bottom of the barrel, trying to get them, And during that time, my experience with that was awesome. I mean, I enjoyed it very much. To some people, it really sucked because they weren't physically fit or they weren't mentally prepared for those hard days. I mean, and for us, it was like I think it was like 14 weeks of training, and that was just the academy within the city that I worked for. It wasn't like I had separate training before that, right, from the school that I went to that was required, but nothing to the level of training that I was when I went to that department.
When did you start your law enforcement career and when did you retire from it?
Yeah, so it was I started actually, gosh, 2007, 2006. I was a community service officer for Coon Rapids, and then I completed school and then got hired in 2000 and early 2010 at the city of New Hope as a police officer, and then I did that for about 2.5 years, and then I transferred over to St. Paul. When I transferred to St. Paul, that was a game changer because it's a city. So you're going from a suburb agency to the city, and the police calls, the culture is different, everything's different. So
All right, so earlier you were talking about physical and mental. What kind of physical and mental tests did you have to go through?
yep. So I'll start the physical part. They went off of like the U.S. Army, like the military U.S. Army type chart. And if you were a certain age, if you weighed a certain thing, you're supposed to bench a certain amount, run a certain amount. You're supposed to run a mile and a half in a certain amount of time. Um, and then they put you in a physical fight with a guy for like 6 minutes straight, and you got to figure it out. They took you down, you get up. You take them down, you get up, and it was like a constant roll. And some of those drills were really challenging. A lot of people, I would say, 20% of the people that were in the academy, they either failed or they had to go through a second or third time to pass. And then the shooting portion of it, the shooting test was probably the most difficult portion that I've ever encountered on a shoot test because when I was already a cop before the Academy of St. Paul, and their shoot test was a cakewalk. I mean, it was pretty simple. But when I got to St. Paul, you had moving targets, you had targets that flipped, you had to shoot behind cover, you had to shoot behind car. I mean, you things just were dynamic and realistic, and so for me, it was very enjoyable. Like I said,
How well do you think the academy training prepare you for the realities of the job?
I would say 90%. I would say 90% of it prepared me. I was ready to go out there and tackle. Like it was a good base to begin, a good base to start off of, and then the rest of the 10% is the hands-on experience. So I would say it was really solid.
All right. What kind of firearm training did you receive, and how often did you have to requalify?
Yep. So the firearm training, it's hard to explain, but it's like when you go through their academy, it's the whole 14 weeks, and then the last like 2 weeks you have to qual, and the quals are pretty difficult. You have to score at least an 80% or higher, but the 80% or higher is like out of like 50 rounds, and you got moving targets. You got targets that are flipping at a half second like this, and you have to draw and fire your gun before that target goes away, right? So you have to time it. Um, and then not just that, but they'll like make us go run, and then they'll come back and they'll give us a gun and then have a shoot, right? So if you imagine your adrenaline's up, your heart's pumping, you're sweating, you got sweat rolling in your eyes, your your safety glasses you're wearing all fogging up, right? And then people are yelling at you behind you, trying to stress you out to create that stress, so then you would have to focus on your shot. Um, yeah, that was enjoyable and challenging to push through. And I'm sorry, I might went off on the tangent here, but I don't know if I answered your question.
Oh, you did.
Actually, yeah, actually, I
Okay.
got a question on top of that. So I've done a couple of like the LE quals, like Federal Air Marshal and like the FBI qual. FBI qual is actually for somebody who knows what they're doing. FBI qual is like pretty easy. That sounds like way tougher than even like the FBI qualifier.
It is, and some of the people that have come through there just for training, right, not to qual,
Hmm.
but they come through training there. It's pretty difficult to pass, and like I said, people have flunked out of. They may have passed the physical part, like the wrestling and the
Hmm.
fighting part, but when they get to the firearm part, if they can't handle the stress and they can't
Hmm.
shoot, they're out of there. And
Mm.
at the time, they weren't afraid to get rid of you if you couldn't do it, And I'll tell a story of a guy who was standing next to us, and we all standing in a line. The target's flipping a half second, and we all go to draw a gun. And as soon as we draw our gun, I hear shots ring out, right? And he's right next to me. And the shots just being sprayed on the ground and up the line to the target, right? Because he's freaking out and he can't control his trigger, right?
Dang.
And I mean, needless to say, that person was gone. So that was
Hmm.
really dangerous. And I mean, stress affects people differently. So
Hmm. Quick question. So I'm sure that you've done like FBI qual and like Federal Air Marshal qualifier. How would you kind of rank the St. Paul one in terms of like difficulty of different qualifiers that you've seen and done?
So I've never done the air marshal qual or the FBI qual, to be honest with you.
Hmm.
I've done other quals, other
Hmm.
classes like firearms instructor classes that I've been
Hmm.
to. To be honest with you, they're all designed just like a carry permit. They're all
Hmm.
designed for you to pass, so then they can go about their business. I would say the ones that I've gone through that aren't specifically in St. Paul was very easy. It's very simple.
Hmm.
As long as you like, there's no stress, right? It's quiet. You just draw and fire. They say fire 3 shots. You do your 3 shots. As long as you're within the target, you score and you're good to go. So but nothing like the stress is there because I mean, they're trying to prepare you for the real world out there.
Hmm. If you get the chance, look up the Federal Air Marshal qualifier. I think generally across the board, most people would say that the Federal Air Marshal one is probably the highest standard of a U.S. federal agency. Give it a try. It's pretty solid. Actually,
Awesome.
that kind of leads me to ask, what kind of training have you done? Because you're talking about being a firearms instructor, and so I know that typically what we gear our podcast to is a lot of people who are a little bit newer to the space, or people who are still learning. What's some of like the what's some of the background that you have as learning to get into the firearm instructor space?
Yeah, so I started my career. One of my coworkers is like, "Hey, man, you're a good shot. You want to be an instructor?" And I'm
Hmm.
like, "Sure." But at the time, I didn't know that being an instructor really forces you to learn, right? At the
Hmm.
time, I didn't know that. And so, because I got labeled the name instructor, I had to go through a firearms instructor course. And that was taught privately through another police officer, a retired police officer. Went through his course, qual, it was good, and then became an instructor. And then I had to teach my whole department at the time and do quals for them. And then just starting with that, you start to learn sort of like the different things that people do when they shoot, right? So early on, I was able to pick that up, like, oh, okay, so this person shoots like this, their grip's like this. the way they're looking is their dominant eye. They're looking at the wrong eye. They're looking at the right eye, right? So trying to make those corrections. And then that led me into obviously just doing carry permits early on when I first started. And so then you get two levels. I was able to get two levels of different people where they're like civilians, where there's no training. And then you got guys that are SWAT, right? SWAT guys that are highly trained. And the differences were pretty drastic, obviously. But what I noticed is that as long as everybody focuses on the basics, the basic fundamentals of shooting, and consistency is key. And that's what I tell all my students and everybody I've trained in the past is if you're consistent with the trigger pull, if you're consistent with all the basic fundamentals, you're going to do great. You're going to shoot great. But under pressure, under other things, it's going to be completely different. So
Nice, nice. Yeah, so my background is I started as a NRA certified instructor, and then I went to the range master program. And so I took a couple of their courses, and I finished their master certification. And then kind of coming from the civilian side, it's like what you say is, you're starting to learn how do you teach just normal, regular, everyday people use the firearm safety, holster it safety, that kind of stuff. And then the more I started getting into it, I started hanging out with Koo, and Koo's like, nah, that's like baby stuff. And so I started getting into the competition space, and I'm like, wow, I thought it was hot stuff because I was taking classes with like local SWAT guys, all the local LE. There are guys over here who are like former Secret Service, things like that. And so I'm like, I can outshoot all of them. Like, yeah, I'm hot stuff. And then you start getting into competition. It's like, wow, I am trash.
yeah,
And
yeah.
that was a huge eye opener for me. And just kind of going off of that, what are some things that you do to like, keep yourself fresh, learn new things? Because you never want to stay stagnant. What are some tips you have?
Yeah, the only tips I would have is, like I said before, focus on the basic fundamentals. I mean,
Hmm.
it's just your basics. I think
Hmm.
people sometimes I've seen it where even full SWAT guys come in and they're all like, they look really cool, right? They got all the tech gear.
Hmm.
They look sweet rifles, sweet handguns that are all modded out and all awesome. Great. But when they go to shoot, and if they're not focusing on the basic fundamentals, they're not gonna do very well. And the key to it is being consistent day in and day out.
Hmm.
Um, I was never really a competition shooter. I never shot competition. I was no interest in shooting competition because in my workspace that I was doing, I didn't need to do that. However, I did see that there were cops that did it, like our firearms our range master. He did a ton of competition shooting, but because one, he had to prove to himself that he was a good shooter, and two, he did that so that he could pick up things from the competition world to bring back to the basic fundamentals for the law enforcement, so that we could improve our shooting. And something to improve is keep it simple. I think keep it simple. I think when you start to throw too much complications into a basic shooting course, that's when things start to get muddy. Like guys that'll do the turn and shoot. All right, that's great and that works, but realistically, you gotta ask yourself. Like I'm talking in the aspect of real life situations. When are you ever going to turn, shoot at the subject, and run towards it and shoot it some more? Right? Never. Most likely in a self defense situation, the judge and the jury is going to want you to turn, shoot, run, right? They're not going to want you to engage and engage and engage. Like that's just that to them, they're going to think you're a cowboy. So, but keep it simple. You got to make sure that it's always the same thing, right? And don't keep your equipment similar. If you're going to put new equipment on your firearms, you got to train with it. You got to train with it. You got to learn how those things work. So it doesn't change your grip. It doesn't change your trigger speed. It doesn't change your sight. Doesn't change. Like guys that are going that all of a sudden it's all popular now with the red dots of their handguns. You've never shot a red dot on your handguns. You never put thousands of rounds through your handgun with the red dot. And you think that you're going to be able to get sight alignment immediately out of your holster when you have to draw it and use it, or even a competition. Good luck. I mean, if you don't train with it, you're not going to know how to use it. So that's why I like to keep it simple. But at the same time, if you need new equipment, train with it. The next thing would be just you don't have to shoot a gun all the time. If you're sitting in your living room or you're sitting in your basement, you could double, triple check, make sure your gun's completely unloaded, right? And then just practice your trigger pull. Do you any of you guys know that empty shell casing trick where you put it on top of a front side of a handgun? Yeah, so that one, I always tell my students, I'm like, if you guys really want to get really good at it, test practice with this with your trigger pull and make sure it's smooth trigger pull where the shell casing doesn't fall. And people are like, oh my God, so hard. I'm like, it is, but when you get better at it, you'll see your shooting improve because that's consistent. So, but that's it.
I think you made an excellent point that not a lot of people really consider because people like the flashy stuff. They like the guys who are wearing full kit, running drills. But you made an excellent point that that's not realistic. Like turn and shoot or run towards this target. It's so corny to talk about it, but you got to really understand what is the mission set of law enforcement versus somebody who is a military operator versus somebody who is just a regular dude going to the grocery store to go get milk, right? Completely different mission sets. And from the what I teach from the defensive side is, if you are just a regular dude, it is not your job to chase after that bad guy. And you're absolutely correct. Yeah, you chase after that bad guy. That's you got to prove to the responding officer, you got to prove to the prosecutor, you got to prove to the judge and the jury that yeah, I had no other choice than to chase down that guy while shooting at him. And that's a hard thing to prove. Why were you doing that? And so I believe absolutely, absolutely. That's so important. That's something that people really need to consider. What are you training for, and is it actually realistic to the type of mission that you're doing? Yeah, I think that's an excellent point that you bring.
So, oh, excuse me. How did your tactical training evolve over the course of your career?
Yeah, so at the beginning, during the academy, they teach you basic room clearing, right? Basic
Mhm.
room clearing where you're clearing your houses or a large warehouse or even a school. It's slow, methodical versus rushing in and making mistakes. So the tactical part of it, it changes that way. And at the beginning, when we were training for like active school shooters, it would actually making us rush into the school to try to find the shooter and engage, right? And put down the shooter in the schools. But then that quickly changed over time because they realized that rushing in and doing that's when mistakes happen. You're going to engage other cops that are either not in uniform, right? Or there's so many issues. So then now it's evolved to where it's like slow, methodical searches. And it's just moving at the speed that you're comfortable with versus it's just like competition shooting. Some guys go too fast, some guys go too slow, right? And you're trying to find that happy medium during competition shooting. So then you've got a rhythm. And I think people for the tactical portion of it, I was able to figure out my speed towards the end of my career, where I was like, okay, if we were to engage, I feel like I would have the upper hand because I'm prepared for this scenario, So
So, what do you
Actually,
think? Oh yeah,
oh, go
go
ahead,
ahead,
Ku.
Christian. Go ahead.
No, I was I forgot. I was actually going to talk to you about this. So this is one of the things that has really changed the way that I shoot within this past year. Because you're talking about balancing the shell casing on top of the front sight. Let me get my dummy gun here. Right. So essentially, if people don't know what we're talking about, right? So one of the things that's often taught for being able to press that trigger very accurately is you take a shell casing and you balance it on that front sight and you try to. This is a toy. This is not an actual Glock sight. Um, you've tried to press. Oh, forget it. Try to press that trigger without shaking the gun. And honestly, that's great. That's great for more of a very accurate, slow bullseye type of shooting. But then what I was starting to find is that it started to limit me when I started needed to be able to shoot at speed. Um, that so I would say that for like 95% of the things that I needed to do up until that point in my shooting career for like all the different qualifiers like Pheng was talking about, that worked. But then I started shooting with Ku. I started following the instructors that Ku's follows, like Stager, like Joel Park, guys that we've had on the podcast. And and one of the things that they don't really teach is being able to press that trigger very very smoothly anymore because for the type of shooting that they're doing is, it's very fast, rapid action shooting. You acquire the sights as quickly as possible on the target as quickly as possible, and you press the trigger as quickly as possible. Um, One of the guests that we had on, Billy Barton, he got into this argument with this one guy, and that one guy, he was saying that you never slap the trigger, never slap the trigger, and Billy Barton, who is a grandmaster level shooter, he's like, yeah, you slap the trigger because you need to shoot very quickly and very accurate. And so Billy Barton, he's able to demonstrate some just insane levels of shooting, just how accurate he can be, and just how quickly he can shoot. Um, so I guess just one of my thoughts is that one of the things that's really changed the way I shoot is that I don't I don't focus on doing that smooth trigger press anymore because when we look at like officer involved shootings, right, or we look at defensive shootings, nobody's taking the time to like really squeeze off those rounds very methodically, I should say. And so it's there are cases where maybe maybe it's like a hostage situation, or maybe the threat is far away and it takes a little bit more concentration. But generally, when we see defensive shootings, or we see like the officer involved shootings, they're slapping that trigger, right? And then if you're slapping that trigger and it is something that you have never had to do before, then all of a sudden all the things that you've learned, all that smooth trigger press, it doesn't work anymore because now you are forced to slam that trigger because that guy is, he's 2 feet away and he's closing in and he's got a knife and you're just slamming it, right? And so, yeah. So just kind of going off of that, that was something that's kind of changed the way that I trained. And, I would love for you to think of if this is something that would be good for your training too, is just a really good drill that Billy Barton taught me, which was trigger control at speed, um, where you very similar to balancing that shell casing is when you press that gun out on the target, right? And instead of doing the slow press, you actually just come out all the way up and then you just slam it, okay? And just slam it. And then what you're looking for is you're actually looking to see what are my sights doing as I am just straight up slamming that trigger. Because in a panic, in actual defensive situation, we're not doing this, we're doing this. So we should train like this, okay? And what I'm looking for, what Billy was teaching me is that I'm looking for, how do my sights move? How are my sights moving? And what that's dictated is by the grip. And these are all the things that have really changed how I've been shooting this past year, is that by that quality of that grip, that dictates what my gun does when I am absolutely slamming that trigger. And then by doing that, all of a sudden I'm able to shoot faster splits and be more accurate. And then if I need to throttle down and I do need that more bullseye accurate shot, I can still do this. But for like an actual defensive shoot, it mimics what we're actually doing. And then it's really taught me, how important it is to have, a very focused on, I shouldn't say focused because I'm not focused on the grip. Essentially, it's people hate the word muscle memory, but it is essentially like muscle memory where I've got that grip built in, locked in. Every time my hands go on that gun, I am locked in with that proper grip, getting a good grip on it. But that's just one of the things that I've learned that's really changed how I've started to shoot this past year. And if you get the chance, absolutely, I definitely think you should check that out if you haven't got a chance to yet.
Yeah, absolutely. Yep. That's just the smooth trigger pull. It's for
Mhm.
people that have never shot a gun before, and we call it flicking the booger, right? When you're
Mhm.
flicking the booger, and the guys, I mean, you've seen it where some of the people that are inexperienced, their eyes are closed,
Mhm.
and they're literally just slapping the trigger, right? They're not even looking at the sight or anything, and so it's just sort of the belief system behind it, and what they taught us at the very beginning, the first week
Mhm.
is take your time to trigger pull, understand, right? Let the gun surprise you and go from there. And then as we moved forward into the more weeks, we gradually climbed to, I wouldn't say slapping the trigger, but you're basically, like you said, you're hammering down on it, trying to get
Mhm.
the as much shot as possible to stop the threat. So
Oh, absolutely. Absolutely. All right, go ahead, Keith. Sorry, I
Yeah, I
derailed you.
mean, I basically was just gonna say what you said. I was just gonna ask you, what do you think of the phrase s- slow is smooth and smooth is fast? What do you think about that? How, when you hear that?
I think of old school,
Okay.
right?
That's
I
what we
think
like
of
to
old,
hear. Okay.
yep. I think of old school because when I started, everyone said that, right?
Hmm.
It's just super old school.
Hmm.
If you train that way, and if you're thinking of in a real life situation, are you really gonna go slow and methodical and take your gun out? Are you really gonna slowly put your gun up to your sight? No, it's gonna be in the time of panic. It's get that gun up and get working right away, right? So no, I don't. I'm not a really big believer in that.
Yeah, same here. I agree
Yep.
with that. Yeah, because right now I'm training my 9-year-old son to shoot, and I never I never used the word fast or slow. All I told him to do is yank the trigger as soon as uh the dot or the sight lands on wherever he's looking at. And that helped him a lot. And that also helped me a lot because I remember when I first got into shooting, I was doing like, the slowest, smoothest, fast, like just bullseye training all day. And just like Christian said, when are we actually gonna shoot like that if we did have to defend ourselves? And same goes with competition. Um, because like in a competition match, you're not just gonna shoot slow. If you shoot slow, you're gonna lose the match. So you have to like I have to learn how to like shoot fast and accurately while under pressure. Um so yeah, I agree. I just want to say that, and yeah, I agree with both of you on that. All right, so can you recall a time when you're excuse me, can you recall a time when your training directly helped you handle a dangerous or unpredictable situation?
Yes. So, me and my partner was we were working the east side, and we got a noise disturbance call. So we get there, and we've always been taught this, but you never stand in front of a door when you're dealing with somebody or knocking on the door. The reason why is because people shoot through the door, right? So you always stand off to the side. And so my partner and I were standing off to the side. He made a decision to come to the front of the door and knock really loud. And I was off to the side, and the door pops open. And the first thing I see is the guy coming out, and this is all I see is the guy coming out like this, right? I don't see what's in his hand. I just see him coming out like this in a shooting position. And then I see an orange flash in my face. Wow, wow, wow. Well, like three or four flash right in my face. By that point, my gun was already out. And I no idea when my gun came out. Gun's already out in front of me. Fingers on the trigger. I was getting ready to pull the trigger, right? And I was always fully committed. But then I don't know what it was. Something in my gut said, "Hold on a second. Look over your sight." Because my front sight was on his forehead, right? And I mean it was within 6 feet. That's how close we were, within 6 feet of him. And I put my front sight down and I looked. He had a Nerf gun on it, and his grip pushed forward, right? And I remember seeing the orange flash in my face. Well, it was the orange darts flying by my face. So, and then my partner was like backing up like this too. So he was reacting to the darts, right? So he thought he was getting shot at, and I didn't hear the bang. I hear no noise. I didn't hear the click. It was like in slow, like the movies, and I do slow motion. It was like everything in slow motion. Here's my gun. It comes out. Front sight's on. I'm finger on the trigger, and I'm like getting ready to squeeze the trigger, and I pause, and I look just like with milliseconds. I look over, and I'm like, "What the fuck?" Right? And immediately he realizes, "Oh shit, it's the police!" Right? And you can see it in his face. And he like drops the gun and goes like, "Oh my god!" Right? So long story made short, he thought that his buddy just left, and he thought that we were his buddies coming back to play a prank on him. And he thought that was a bright idea to come to the door, slap the door open, and come out and start shooting his Nerf gun at his buddies. And it turned out to be police officers and not his buddies. And I told him, I said, "Dude, that could have cost you your life, man. That could have cost you your life."
Ah.
So that I mean, and the speed of my gun, like I said, like
Hmm.
I don't remember when my gun came out. I just remember my gun was already out when that door popped open, and all I saw was him coming forward. My gun's already out. It's in front of my face. Fingers on the trigger. I was ready to go. So
I'm so glad that you weren't on the news. So
no.
glad.
After that call, me and my partner
Hmm.
went to go eat dinner, and we were both just at dinner shaking, right? Because you're both just shaking. Because what,
Yeah.
like, dude, what just happened? You know? So
Yeah.
yeah,
And I guess I definitely want to preface this that, a lot of people may hear that story and just think that, oh, what do police officers just shoot anybody holding a Nerf gun? And it's, um, I, I definitely have to say that, I have an appreciation for officers because especially things like that, just showing up at a door, you don't really know what's going to happen. Right. And so, the jobs that the vast majority of us work, we don't expect somebody to pull a gun on us. But I definitely have an appreciation that, the work that you do is that there is that very strong chance that you're going to just open that door or pull behind that car and that person's going to try to shoot you because we've seen hundreds of instances of just like that. And so I definitely would say that, for those in our audience who are just thinking that, oh, why are police officers so trigger happy to shoot people who own Nerf guns. It's not quite that simple. You definitely got to put yourself in the shoes of that responding officer. So absolutely, I'm glad that you are not on the news for that.
yeah, absolutely. I was. Trust me. When I was done eating my dinner, I was like,
Mhm.
man, I think I need to go home. So yeah.
Mm-hmm.
So when you were still in the law enforcement, did you do you think that you had to rely more on instinct or your training?
Both.
Both.
Yep. So, one thing that it's hard to explain, and I think it's hard for people that have never been in that position is your sixth sense, right? You always have a sixth sense. And when something doesn't feel right, it's not right, right? I mean, I have stories for days, but there was things where it was just like certain, like just a quick one where it's like this guy was acting sort of weird, right? He wasn't answering my questions. He was like really off, and I was like, is he high? What's going on? And then the chase was on, right? And then I started seeing him reaching for something in his waistband. I'm thinking, okay, maybe he's got a gun, right? But then he doesn't pull it out and he's just running. So I'm like, oh, maybe he's just holding the gun. And so the chase is on. We're jumping fences. And then I come around a corner. He doesn't see me. And he looks at me with his eyes pop wide open, right? And I go to tackle him like a football tackle. And I tackle him. When we hit the car. And as soon as we hit the car, I hear the metal hit the ground. Clink, 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 right? And I'm like, oh shit, gun, right? So um, it's all like instinct, right? I didn't know at the time if he had a gun, and I was like, I can't guess either because I can't like, right? I just can't. So
Hmm.
it's like it was really difficult. And then I just like trying to use the sixth sense, like, okay, there's something weird about this, so I got to be careful. And I turned the corner, he's right there, and I was like too close to create distance, so I ended up just going right to a tackle, and boom, we went to the ground. So yeah, it's I think the training comes into play after your instincts, and
Mm.
you can't teach the instincts. Like a brand new
Hmm.
cop who has a year under their belt, they're not going to go out there and make sound decisions because they only have a
Hmm.
year under their belt, right? At the time when this call happened, I was already probably 10 years in, so I had a lot of experiences reading people, and I joke around, but as a cop I was a professional person reader. So I mean, I still do it today, but if I walk into a room, I'm sizing everybody up in the room, right? Threat, not a threat, right? I'm doing that already. And it's like slowly processing in my head, okay, if he draws, I got here, what's my backdrop? A wall. What's behind the backdrop? A laundromat. Shit. Okay. Like I'm already doing that way before like the moment I walk into a room, right? And that's just because of the things that everything that I've gone through to sort of learn those things. So
No, I definitely respect that. Yeah, yeah. Um, yeah. I was gonna say that one of the things that especially Ku and I want to do is, make sure that we don't talk on things that we don't have expertise in. So we always love when we can get guys like you on the show and just hear your thoughts and opinions on all of these things.
probably.
Were there a time when you feel like your training didn't prepare you enough?
Yeah, but it's more so called, right? I mean, it's not. If you talk about like firearms, I felt like I was squared away for it. If you talk about physical altercations, squared away for it. But if it's anything else, like dealing with like things that you didn't imagine, like things that you couldn't that you never imagined, like a human is not supposed to see, there's no training or no nothing that can prepare you for those things. So
How has your perspective on training changed since you left the job?
I feel like during my time there, we shot so much, right? So we did a qual every year, and then we did a cold shoot every year. And the quals was like every quarter there's a qual, and then during cold weather you had to shoot your cold weather gear, jacket, your gloves, or whatever you wear. You got to qual with all those things. And we didn't qual with just a handgun. We qualled with rifles, shotguns, right? Um, and at the time, I felt like I tell people today, I'm like, I'm bored of shooting, right? It's just the same thing over and over and over. It's just, to me, it's boring now because I shot so much during my career where it's like, oh, I got to go in and shoot, right? It's like almost like I felt like it was weekly, but it was probably once a month, but we had to go in and shoot. But it felt like it was weekly, and then for me and the unit that I was in the canine unit, we had to shoot, sort of imitating like our dog stuff. So I had extra shooting. So I felt like I was always shooting. But at the time, that's what I thought. Now that I've left and I've retired, I've come out now. I think about it and I was like, you know what though? At that time, when I was thinking it was boring, I was really solid at shooting. Like I felt like I was very solid. Now, I'm a member of a shooting club, right? And I do my shoots here and there. Like I go out and I just shoot with my kids, and friends or whatever, but nothing to the point of how it was before. And I feel like that really because I was so comfortable shooting a gun at that time. Like if I was involved in an incident, like I didn't even blink an eye. I just reacted because of the training and everything else I've been through. So, but now I can still see that I still have some of those things. I just don't do some of the complex stuff like running after a target or shooting a moving target. Like why would I shoot a moving target? Um, I'm now as a civilian, I'm not. That's not my job. My job is to put two rounds. If the person runs or drops, I run the other way because I'm not trying to be on the news. So
All right, kind of going off of that. When you when you carry, are you appendix, strong side, or outside waistband?
depends. So it depends on what I'm wearing, and it depends
Hmm.
on what the situation. Um, Sometimes I would say 70% of the time I'm an appendix carrier right in front. If I'm wearing like tighter clothes, a suit or whatever, and if I take off my suit jacket or whatever, I carry a 38 special revolver, hammerless, and I call it my oh shit gun because the only time when that gun should be coming out is if it's close engagement because that it's like a 3 inch stem nose, right? So you're
Hmm.
not you're not putting no lead down range at 20 yards of that thing. But it's there in case I need it, and it's there just for that reason. But my I'm sure you guys I'm jumping the gun here, but
Hmm.
my daily carry is a 19. I carry Glock 19.
Same.
So I've been a Glock my entire career.
Hmm.
I've bounced between different guns, and
Hmm.
and what's crazy thing is I shoot way more accurate with the Sig. I don't know why, way more accurate with the Sig. But for the department that I worked for, they only allowed us to
Hmm.
carry two makes, and it was a Smith and Wesson or a Glock, and I picked Glock over the Smiths. So, uh, but
Smart.
yeah, but I mean, and and
Both
and
both
to
you and the department.
yeah, right, right. And I think it's because simplicity and reliability is
Hmm.
really the key. And I don't know if any of you guys carry or believe in safeties, but I don't carry safeties in any of my firearms due to the fact that I was not trained that way. I'm not going to train myself to take the safety off and then engage. I've been trained to just draw and fire, right? There's no draw and disengage and then fire. So anyway, going on a tangent.
No, no, that was a really good tangent. And I don't know if either you or Ku saw the news. There was a press release saying that there was an Air Force sergeant who was he removed his holster, the entire holster, and then as he was taking off his entire holster, and I believe he was sitting on a table, it went off and shot him right in the chest and killed him. And so that press release just came out earlier today, I believe.
Was
So
it
this
Wow.
is just
AT320?
yeah, Air Force, so you know it. Yeah, so just add another log into the fire that is the P320 dumpster fire.
Oof.
Yeah.
You know about the P320 stuff, right?
I don't. So
It's
yeah, I don't keep up with those news anymore.
Mhm.
So,
all right. So speaking of SIG, why
Are,
do you think you
are,
shoot better with a SIG?
so I shot like an old SIG, right? So it's complete
like a
top,
226?
yeah, 226, old school though. So you got
Okay.
your metal upper, your metal, your
Yep.
solid
Yep.
metal lower. Very heavy gun, very heavy. Like I would never carry as duty because
Yeah.
it would like it's just suck carrying. So
It's a
yep,
boat anchor. Yeah.
right. And but because it's so heavy, like there's no recoil to it. Wherever I put that
Hmm.
front sight, I mean,
Hmm.
I could rapid shoot it. I could shoot it slow. I mean, it was amazing. But to me, I was just not worth the weight with the accuracy. I was like, it's not worth it for me.
So in the police academy, were you guys taught target focus or sight focus?
It's more sight focus. Yep. So you have your target. You have to focus your front sight. That's what we were taught.
Mm.
Yep.
Have you you personally have you tried target focus instead of
Yes.
sight focus?
Yeah. So
With
I'm a sorry.
no. Yeah, go ahead. Yeah.
So I'm a hunter. So I hunt I hunt wild hogs, right? I
Nice.
hunt, and so when the hogs are moving at a rapid pace, and if you're focused on your front sight,
Hmm.
you're gonna be shooting behind the hog every time. So you got to lead that shot, and you got to look at
Hmm.
your target and shoot. But this is, of course, we're talking about shooting at a stale target in front of you.
Hmm.
You're front sight focused, and then eventually, what we do is they transitioned us to moving targets and flipping targets. And when they did that, it was more focused towards the target. And it was like we did drills where there's no you couldn't even get on your front sight or rear sight. You literally it's a drawn fire, right? And it's point and shoot. That's what we call it, point and shoot. Because you're literally pointing your index finger or you're looking at your target and boom, you're just shooting. Right. So it's just like when I pheasant hunt. Same thing when the birds fly up, I don't look at my front sight of my shotgun. I literally just bring it up, I look at the bird, bam, it's down, right? I'm not looking at the front sight of my rifle trying to get a good accurate shot. I just put it up to the bird, the target, and boom, it's down. So, but that's because I'm a hunter. I don't know about the other guys that aren't hunters. I don't know what they do. I don't know how they do it, but yeah.
Oh, actually, I got a question. I was going to ask you earlier. So you said that when you're still in the department, that the range master for your department, that he was a big competition shooter. Who was better, you or him?
Oh, he was way better. He was way better. I mean, him and the range master before him. I mean,
Mm.
they've got trophies up the wall. I mean, those guys have are
Mm.
very well known. I mean, they've competed nationally, right?
Wow.
They're really they're masters at their trade, and there's a reason why they're the range master. So,
What's his name?
Jeff Whipback,
Jeff Whipback.
and then the one before him was Randy Barnett.
Who's currently thinking of why he taught
Yeah.
everybody front sight focus?
Yeah.
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 Oh no
I'm
no.
trying.
So like I said, the front side focus is primarily for beginning, right? That's the
The
beginning of
academy,
it.
huh?
Correct.
Okay.
And then we transition. So it's always there's at
Mhm.
the beginning, that's what was taught, and then you
Mhm.
transition out of there. And then you transition to the moving targets because bad guys don't stay still and stand there and shoot at you.
Mhm.
So
Oh, I was just trying to see if I ever ran into them at a match, because
I,
yeah, I mean I'm from Minnesota also, and me and my buddy we shoot like almost every single week, so I was just thinking if I ever ran into those guys.
so Randy Barnett retired like a year or two before I even started.
Hmm.
Randy Barnett's an older guy, but he's an amazing shooter. Jeff Whitbeck, I don't know if he's doing competition anymore, but during the time when I was in there, he was still doing competition. So, and that was in 2022.
Hmm.
So, I don't know if he's not doing it anymore. I actually ran into him. I just haven't talked to him about it, but
Hmm.
yeah, amazing shooters.
I got one more thing for you. Koo
Yep.
already knows this, but I am a big hater. I'm a big hater of Smith and Wesson J frames. I think that there's no reason to carry a J frame revolver. For those you don't who know what I'm talking about, it's those snub nose revolvers, often used for concealed carry, the ones without the hammer on the back.
Yep.
Because I think that we've got Glock 43s, P365s. There's so many in the micro compact category that are lighter, carry more ammo. I love revolvers as a novelty, but I wouldn't carry one. Tell me why you carry a revolver.
Yep, because if I got shoot in my pocket, that thing will always turn,
Ah,
right?
pocket carry.
So
Okay.
correct. Yep. So
Hmm.
I have a holster that if I can draw within, so like
Hmm.
the idea to the snub nose is I would, if some guy comes up to me and my family and points a gun in my
Hmm.
face, right? I don't want to have to reach down, grab my gun, bring
Hmm.
it out. By that point, I'm dead, right?
Hmm.
I want to be able to have my gun in my pocket and literally my hands are in my pocket and it just goes bang, bang, guy's down,
Hmm.
right? It's over. So with a semi-auto or with a slide,
Hmm.
that thing slides you're gonna get one round off and boom,
Hmm.
it's gonna slide lock in your jacket. Versus the low snub nose is gonna continue, the low wheel is gonna continue to spin in your jacket until you run out of the 6 rounds or 8 rounds, whatever you got. So that's the only reason I
What's
carry it.
just on the flat range, what would you say is like your average draw to first shot time?
I don't know. I honestly, I don't, I don't time those. It's more so for me. It's just more so my reaction. I'm pretty sure now I'm not as fast as I used to be. I'm pretty slow now, but
Let's talk about the firearm instructor stuff. So we know that you're an instructor with force options. So how did that start for you?
yeah. So when I began my police career, one of the guys that I worked for or worked with, he was like, "Hey, you're a good shot. Would you be ever interested in teaching firearms?" And I was like, "Yeah, I'd be interested, you know." And then I went through their instructor course. It was like a week long instructor course with the trainer that they had a part of Force Options. And then did it, passed, and then I just started teaching those classes. But then I was also teaching firearms for the department. So I started had two things going on at once, and yeah,
What kind of student do you typically see in your classes?
I would say it's a 50-50 split. 50% of them are brand new, never handled any firearms whatsoever. And then the other 50% either has or act like they have.
Call of Duty
And
doesn't count.
right, yeah, Call of Duty doesn't count. Call of Duty doesn't count. However, yeah, that's honestly though, like I'll use my kid as an example, right? So he never really he's touched his firearm his entire life, but I've never really like taught him a load or unload a shotgun. And for him to like handle my shotgun based upon what he's done on COD, kid could just load it no problem, right? And I'm like, wow, that's impressive. So it's something to be said about that, right? Just a simulation video game will teach so much more about it, you know. So
I know kids nowadays. We had some family friends and so their kids came along too, and I was just teaching them some basic firearm stuff. And the kid I correctly identified that this is not a clip, this is a magazine, and he correctly identified, a lot of the basics of the firearm. I'm like, wow, you're actually pretty good at this. He was like, yeah, I watch a lot of airsoft videos. I'm like, oh, okay, I got you. Although Koo still calls it a clip though.
Was that?
Koo still calls it a clip.
Yeah, it is a clip, man. It's a clip, dude. Ain't no mag, man. It's a clip. All right, so let's just say that if a student, right, if he or she wants to get better at shooting, um, and before they take a class from an instructor, how do you know if that how would we know if that instructor is legit beforehand? What are things that we should look out for?
so for me, you got to have one of three things for me to be considered you legit. One, you have to, from the civilian side of things, you have to have competition shooting background. You have to have some competition shooting background where you either train for it or you compete. That's number one. Number two, you got to have law enforcement background. Or number three, you got to have military background. If you're Joe Schmo off the street with no competition shooting, none of those experiences, and you just want to teach, I think that you need to go and try a different space to get more experience so that you can come out and teach. Because I've seen it. Um, I participated in some classrooms where people have asked me to go in a system and training, and I know them, but I don't like. I don't. I know they don't have a background in it, but they just want to teach. So I go and I sort of just view, and then I give my inputs, but I don't insert myself into it, and I just sort of observe. And it's actually really scary because a lot of these guys are teaching different things that aren't realistic or like there's almost like fantasy to them, you know. And so for me, you got to have one of those three things in order for me to respect or consider a legitimate course or instructor.
Yeah, yeah. A lot of people don't realize that anybody can just go buy a t-shirt that says firearms instructor.
Yep.
All right. So last question that we have. Um, have you ever thought about trying out competition shooting?
I have. So when I was in the police department, um, I because I joined us because I was in a K9 unit and our quals were the same as the SWAT members, right? So our quals, we had a qual at a different qual than your normal police officer. We had a qual where it was comparable to the SWAT team guys, and so we were all there. I was there for the qual to be on a SWAT team. So I got to, like I said, I got to a point where I was very comfortable shooting. I was very comfortable with a shotgun or whatever firearm that you handed me. I was very comfortable with it. Um, and I did consider doing like a 3-gun competition because that looks fun to me. Because it's different. It's not the same old boring handgun out. You know, it's different. You know, and but I nowadays I'm just like my skills are deteriorating because I don't shoot like as much as I used to. And right now, I honestly nowadays I don't have a purpose for it. You know, I don't have a purpose to be shooting accurate shots with my handgun at 375 yards. Believe it or not, that was actual one of our competition shoots and during for between their academy mates, and that was my max with the handgun at 375. And then there's other guys who are shooting further than that, and I just couldn't believe it. Um, but yeah, it was just it's more of those like now I just don't see anything for me to get to the point of where I was shooting versus now it's more just maintenance, just maintaining, making sure I am still making good placement shots. My reaction time is still good. And I can tell you right now, my reaction time is nothing like I used to be when I was in my mid 20s. So
I
This
think, yeah, go ahead, Christian.
no, I was just gonna say, you'd be surprised. There's a lot of older guys who can really tear it down when it comes to shooting.
I believe it. I believe it.
What I was gonna say was I think you should go out and try competition because I think competition will, what am I trying to say? I think the competition will uh change the style of your teaching, and I think you will learn more, and that could definitely benefit students that come and take your class. So like for me, as a civilian, I always encourage everyone, whatever your background is to come out and do competition because I think competition is where the standard is at as when it comes to shooting. I'm not talking about tactics or anything. I'm talking about like specifically shooting. I think competition, that's the standard where you have to go if you want to improve your shooting. Um, yeah, I always tell people because I don't believe that taking classes, only classes will make you a better shooter. Yes, you should take classes from like respected instructors, but at the same time, competition is the only place for us civilians to really test our skills, to see if we're actually good or not, to actually see if we're learning and put our knowledge to use. And the only time us as a civilian get to shoot under pressure is at competition. And I feel like the more you do competition, the more it will prepare you mentally under stress. If you did ever have to defend yourself on the street or, at home, whatever, because specifically like USPSA, it's all about speed and accuracy, and that's what you really need. And some people may disagree where they say, well, when are we gonna run and gun? Yes, that is true. When are we gonna run and gun? More likely we're not going to, but the fact that you practice drawing from the holster so fast, imagine how fast you could like that could definitely help you in a real gunfight. So that's why I recommend competition to everyone, regardless your background, because you can
Yeah,
always improve in competition.
yeah, and absolutely just kind of going off what Ku is saying that essentially what you're doing in competition is you're doing everything on hard mode. This is like carrying like 100 pounds of training weights on you because you're running, you're gunning, you're moving, and you're processing, you're thinking. You've got to keep track of many different things. You've got to shoot around obstacles and barriers, just like you're talking about, Bang. And then if you ever watch videos of self-defense shootings, they're not complicated. There's that guy, he's threatening my life. He's got a weapon, he's approaching, I draw and I shoot. Uh, the scenario, if we were to do it on paper, would be very simple. But if you can do if you could run 100 miles an hour in the competition space and real life comes around that, guy 5 yards and closing in, that's easy if I absolutely needed to do that to defend my life. And I think a lot of people, definitely not me, I did not appreciate that before I started getting into it. And so man, Peng, like I would definitely say go hang out with Ku, Tony, Fucha, all the other guys who go shoot with them because me personally, I thought I was hot stuff. I have a bunch of challenge coins and Top Gun coins. I could outshoot all the other instructors in my area. And then I started competing. I'm like, I'm trash. Like I'm only like maybe a C class. And then I realized that, the people who actually shoot are way, way better than me. Like I'm nowhere near that. So um one of the things I was doing was I was shooting up to the standards of you're not familiar with Scott Jedlinski of Modern Samurai Project, are you?
Nope.
So Scott Jedlinski of Modern Samurai Project, his shooting standards are, let's see, it is draw to first shot. So that's a sub 1 second draw and shot at 7 yard alpha in under 1 second, that's very hard from concealed. So there is also the sub 2 second bill drill, which is 7 yards, draw and fire, 6 shots under 2 seconds. He's got I think it's a 1.5 second, 25 yard alpha from concealment. And then there is, I think it's like 1.5 second it might be 2 seconds. Draw three to the center, two to the head. So the black belt standards are like very, very, very difficult. And so I was training for that, and I was pretty close to that. And I thought, I'm really hot stuff. But then, I got put into the competition space, and I'm like, oh, okay, I may be a decent shooter standing still, but as soon as you tell me to start moving, all of those skills, they just really fall apart. So yeah, I would say that go shoot with Ku, Tony, these other guys, and yeah, you would be absolutely surprised just how difficult it is to do um, compared to what it actually looks like.
Yeah, no doubt. I agree. I mean, it's we always talk about it's perishable skill, right? So if you don't maintain it, you don't keep up on
Mm.
it, you lose a skill or it slowly deteriorates. And I would say that for me, you know, I knew this. I've been an instructor for a long time, and I knew it that it deteriorates. But like I said, for me, for my standard, for what, just for me, not yours, or I don't hold just for what I hold myself. I'm like, for what I do right now, it's good enough for me. However, if I'll ever be um, in a situation where I can see myself where I would have to use such force, then yes. But I've tried so hard to separate myself from the city that I used to work for, meaning like living distance and the inner city. Like I live way out in the country. I live nowhere in the city. My neighbor is probably 300 yards from me, right? So I don't intend on putting myself in a situation like that. However, it is awesome that there's that space where guys like yourselves who are competing and constantly right training up your shooting skill, like that's something that I've never done, and I think it'd be really cool to do. But in my current state in my life, pushing 40, running my business, I actually have two businesses that I run. So it's for me, it's like trying to take time in my day, even once a week, to go do a shoot. It's really difficult. Um, but maybe someday when my kids are a little older, right? No sports, they're I have less distraction. I think I would love to do it, honestly. So
Yeah, yeah, absolutely, absolutely, and hit these guys up because they do a lot of cool stuff. Oh, if you get that, do you do you have space to shoot in your backyard? That
I
sounds
do,
great, actually. Oh,
I do.
nice.
Yep,
Look up the Federal Air Marshal shooting qual. It's pretty rigorous. I would say, have you seen the Air Marshal qualifier?
I'm pretty sure I have, but I just don't remember.
It's fairly tough. I would say that it's something like maybe like a C class type of qualifier. But yeah, Peng, try shooting it because I believe what it is the saying is you can't shoot it, you can't fly. So they have to qualify all the time, and if you fail it, then you're no longer fit to go on the job. But yeah, try it. It's a lot of fun.
yeah.
It's tough, but it's fun.
I've got a couple buddies that are air marshals, so they always
Mm.
they've told me about that. They've told me about it. So
If you haven't shot it, give it a try.
yeah, no, I haven't shot it, so I do need to try it.
All right, Ping. So before we end this podcast, do you have any question for me and Christian?
No, I just want to say, I don't have any questions. I just want to say that, I appreciate you guys. I appreciate you guys inviting me on here. It's awesome to see some Hmong brothers that are competing in this space because, and during my time in the police department, we had three Hmong guys that did compete, competition, but I don't think they went anywhere. One of my good friends that were in there, he deviated from the handgun shooting and he went to a sniper role. So he
Mm,
did all his competition shooting sniping. So he was a
nice.
sniper and he did all that stuff for the SWAT team. And so he did competition sniping, but he never did any handgun or like even that three gun thing. He just stuck primarily to sniper. But it's cool to see that there's Hmong brothers like yourselves that are picking this stuff up and doing it because there's a saying we have in St. Paul. When there's a shooting, and if it's Hmong related, there's going to be a body
Mm.
um, because there's some really good shooters out there. And I've seen a lot of Hmong brothers that can really shoot, and I'm nowhere near some of those guys. Some of those guys I've seen shoot, I'm like, wow, like they're on a different level, and I'm sure you guys are there. So appreciate you guys very much.
Ku is burning up on the inside. He's like, where are these Hmong guys that know how to shoot?
Yeah, where where they at, man? No, honestly, okay. To be honest, maybe I just hold on to a different standard, but if I want to be honest with you, I think our community needs a lot more training. Me and Christian, we talked about this on a different podcast already, where I always say that. So we all know that Hmong people love guns, right? And Hmong people own guns. Every Hmong family I know own guns. And Minnesota has the biggest Hmong population, but then yet it's only three of us that constantly, well, three, four of us constantly shoot uh, and train. So when I the way I see training, especially for civilian training, for me is more like competition, and not just standing and shooting at an indoor range because I always tell people that when you shoot at the range with no pressure, everything is easy. It's easy to hit the bullseye all the way up to like 30 yards. Like it's effortless to even to hit the 30 yard the bullseye at 30 yard, but uh it's hard to hit the target two alphas at 7 yards under pressure if you don't train enough. Um so I will have to kind of disagree where there's a lot of good Hmong shooters out there because um I
Ku's been
interact with a
looking.
lot of Hmong people, right? And I have not seen I barely see any Hmong people that could actually really shoot because we may be the best in our circle, but if we compare ourselves to like the other group of race, we're really low. Our standard is pretty low. So that's why like my goal, our me and Christian, our goal is to like really push out like practical shooting to the home community. but unfortunately, it's not sexy enough. So it's not grabbing the Hmong community attention. Um, so yeah, so that's what like I encourage a lot of our community to go out and try competition because I used to be those people who think that was hot shit because I could hit the bullseye at like 20 yards consistently and 99.9% of the time the target will have a big hole and I thought that was the shit and a lot of people from our community said, "Damn, dude, you're like the best shooter ever, right?" So that boosts up my confidence, and I went out to try competition just to find out that I couldn't even hit the target at 5 yards under pressure. Um, so it's a whole different ball game when it comes to like competition shooting. Um, so yeah, man, I that's why I always encourage competition to our community, and that's why I push so hard in our community. But unfortunately, nobody shows up beside us four in Minnesota.
I think the standard, I think it's across the board, in the Hmong community, is that it's good enough. That's what I've always encountered in my profession. My brother is a big boxer. He does a bunch of boxing, and it's the same thing, same story, exactly what you just said, right? He wants to push out boxing because there's a lot of Hmong fighters. There's not a lot of good ones, but there are some Hmong fighters. And same thing, concept of, he wants to push it out for those kids or for those guys that are pretty decent at fighting because he wants to make a name for ourselves, and but people don't show up, and I think it's just they think it's just good enough. So and I think it just right now, like I bet you, if you were to say go in the competition world and make a name for yourself and you come back out and if you're like revered like Sinisa Lee, right? They'd be like, shit, like Kue Lee's the guy for this, right? And then everyone's gonna be flocking to you for a whole bunch of stuff. Like, I want to be like you, I want to shoot like you. I think honestly that's the only time that people would actually flock to want to learn more is if it becomes cool like that. I mean, it's just a reality of things. That's just my take on that. I don't see people. I've never seen people wanting to just like do something. Like fighting if they're like, oh, I'm gonna go in there and embarrass myself. I'm not gonna do it. You know. So
Yeah, and I agree with that 100% because that's what I said on the other podcast too, where I think the Hmong community is waiting for someone to be up there before it grab their attention. But I feel like that's also the wrong mindset because um we're talking about defending yourself. We're talking about life and death situation if you ever have to defend yourself with a gun. And if you as a civilian don't actually train uh what makes you think that you'll be ready to defend yourself on the street? Just like how earlier we were talking about the slow trigger press and everything. If that's all you practice, right? How do you really think that? Do you honestly think that you could pull the trigger fast when you have to? And 99.9% of the time is no. And that's why, I'm not saying that I won't miss if I ever have to defend myself, but the chance of me missing is slim compared to like people who don't ever train. And as a civilian, where do we really get to practice drawing from the holster? Where do we really get to run and gun? Where do we really get to shoot under pressure? Nowhere beside competition. And competition is actually not expensive at all. It's actually really is more affordable than going to the range and shooting a couple hundred rounds down the range. Because I always tell people that the range fee, the competition fee is like what, $20, $15. You shoot about 100 rounds and you will learn way more, way faster compared to if you go to the range, you pay like $30 for a range fee and firing 300 rounds. Because I've been touching guns since I was 21, but I didn't consider myself actually training until I started doing competition, which was 3 years ago. And within those 3 years of just doing competition, I learned 1,000 times more than when I was 21 to 28. You know what I mean? So I always try to tell people that if like all the like you're wasting time just shooting at the range. Unless you know what you're doing, unless you really know what you're working on, then that's different. but that's only, but I feel like you don't know what to work on unless you go do competition first. You have to go do competition in order for you to know what to do at the range. Because when I was at the range before competition, I was just bullseye shooting, and I wasted so much time, wasted a lot of ammo, and I regret that so much. You know what I mean? Because right now I'm training my son. He's 9 years old, and obviously I'm still better than him, but he's way better than me compared when I was 21. You know what I mean? So I'm trying to like tell people that do competition. That way, you're learning. The learning process will be faster, and it'll save you time on like wasting ammo, wasting money, um, and yeah. So that's just my opinion, though. I could be wrong.
I agree with you 100%. I think though, because you wanted to do it, you went out and you seeked it, right? Versus like you talking to these guys that are just like, meh, right? Their attitude, meh. And then it's really difficult to push them to be to that level. And I think until, like we said earlier, until somebody gets up there, they're going to be like, oh, man, that's really cool. I want to do that too. And then they're going to want to do that. Unfortunately, that's just the reality I think that we face nowadays. Just a lack of motivation, like yourself, to push yourself really far enough to be educating those things. So, like, if somebody was to sit here, and not, you know, not show you, then you wouldn't know. But then you went out and you seeked it. So it's kudos to you, man. So I that's awesome.
Pheng, are you on Facebook?
I am. I am.
Okay, we'll have to send you an invite to
Oh,
our
he's in there.
secret training group.
I'm
Oh,
already
you
in
already
there.
are?
Yep.
Oh, okay, okay.
Yeah. Okay. So, well,
Are you hear us rant then already?
are you on the Home Firearm group?
I am.
The OG one?
Okay, so yeah, the OG one. So that is the reason why it sounds like I'm talking so much shit is because
He
I'm not
is.
talking shit.
He is,
Uh,
but specifically about that group.
yeah, but because the thing is that a lot of the Hmong brothers in that group, they not all of them, but a few of them talk pretty big about shooting, how good they are, but where's the proof? You know what I mean? Because we're expert on the internet, but where is the proof that you know what you're talking about? And that's why, we have that group where we're trying to encourage people to train and not just post picture about guns. Because when it comes to training and shooting, from what I'm seeing, the Hmong community is lacking. Like like we're super far behind compared to like any other group. And yeah, so that's what we're trying to do is just to encourage more Hmong people to be better at shooting. Do we have to? No, obviously. Why do we do it? I don't know. Maybe because we care. Well, for me, why do I do it? I think it's just because I care about how other people view our community. Even though sometimes I may come off as a dick, but in reality, it I think I care. That's why I'm pushing so hard to our community. But it's very hard to have your message being heard when you're not a Hmong celebrity. But at the same time, you don't want to be a Hmong celebrity because you're gonna end up in Hmong tea. Hmong tea 7.0.
Yep.
I
Yeah.
heard Ku's cheating on his wife with a sexy ghost.
Right.
But yeah,
No,
man.
but
Yeah. What were you
yeah,
gonna say?
no, I was just gonna say, I think that Hmong Firearms group or the OG group that you guys talking about, I think there's a very hard line down the middle, right? Where you got guys that are gun enthusiasts, and then you got the other side that are actually the gun trainers. Like they're serious about it. And that's what I see about you and Christian, right? You guys are gun trainers, you guys are serious about the trade. You're not you're gun enthusiasts as well, but you're not like, oh, like look at my sweet $10,000 rifle that I just built, right? That's not really like what you guys are into. You guys are like, okay, cool, you have a really expensive rifle or really expensive handgun, but can you shoot it? So that's really what I'm seeing with you guys. So I can appreciate that very much.
if you show me an expensive gun and it is immaculate and clean, I am silently judging you on the inside.
Right.
I don't care about your knight's armament or your LMT rifle. If it is clean, I know everything I need to know.
Yep.
All right. Well, that's all the time that we have. Ping, for the viewers, where could they find you if they want to contact you for training or permit to carry classes? Where could they find you?
Yes. So I don't really teach. I don't teach a lot of permanent carry classes anymore, to be honest with you. I sort of slow down on that stuff in that space. So with my business now, I teach more of my guys to shoot for their job. And so you can email me. Uh, it's P as in Paul and then Xiong, Xiong 33 at gmail.com. That's where you can get a hold of me. So,
All right, I will put those information in the description. All
And
right,
what's your
well,
company called?
night sky protection.
Nice.
Yeah. So we're the one of the very few that actually do real drone security type operations here in Minnesota. There's a lot of people advertising it, but they don't have the
Mhm.
capabilities or the legal aspects to do it.
Oh, no, that's really
Yeah,
cool. I'm glad that you're doing that.
appreciate it.
all right, well,
Thanks, fellas.
Ping, thanks for joining us and talking with us tonight. Appreciate you, yeah, taking your time with the day and just chatting with me and Christian.
Absolutely. Anytime.
All right, you guys have a great night. I'm gonna stop recording right now.